The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. This scripture isn't just an ancient truth, it's your story in motion. Picture this: those who once dismissed you, doubted you, and even rooted for your downfall are about to witness something extraordinary. They won't be watching from a distance, they'll be in the front row, witnessing God's undeniable work in your life. Welcome, God's chosen one. Have you ever wondered why opposition often comes from those who seem most threatened by your light? Could it be that your divine calling stirs something within them they can't explain? Yet, here's the beautiful truth. Their resistance only sets the stage for your triumph. God has orchestrated this moment not just to silence your doubters, but to elevate you in a way they could never have imagined. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to declare your faith boldly. Type 777 in the comments as a sign of your trust in God's promises and your readiness for His breakthrough in your life. To those who have supported this mission through super thanks, your kindness and generosity mean more than words can express. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now, let's reflect for a moment. Why does God allow these challenges and adversaries to arise in your life? Could it be because He's crafting a testimony so powerful that even your greatest critics will have to acknowledge His hand in your story? Think of Joseph, the dreamer whose brothers sold him into slavery, believing they had silenced him forever. But God turned their betrayal into a blessing, elevating Joseph to a position where he not only saved Egypt, but also the very family that wronged him. Today, we'll uncover how God is turning every attack against you into a stepping stone for your destiny. This is more than a victory. It's a celebration of God's faithfulness. Stay with me, because what lies ahead is not just poetic justice. It's a masterpiece, carefully designed by the Creator for you. Can you feel the stirring of something extraordinary? Let's begin. God's chosen ones, your enemies will be publicly humiliated, and great celebrations await you. One, humiliation through divine justice. It's harder than revenge. Your enemies thought they had won, didn't they? They believed their lies, manipulation, and schemes were powerful enough to keep you down. But here's the truth: God doesn't just settle scores. He flips the entire narrative in ways no one could predict. When the Creator of the universe steps in, He doesn't simply balance the scales. He ensures that those who worked against you are brought low in ways so precise, so undeniable, that it leaves them stunned. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. How many times have you felt the sting of words spoken against you? Have you ever wondered if the lies they told about you would ever be corrected? Here's the promise: God Himself will ensure those lies become the very truth of their downfall. Think about Haman in the book of Esther. He was so blinded by pride and hatred for Mordecai that he built gallows specifically for him. But in a stunning act of divine justice, Haman was executed on the very gallows he had prepared for his enemy. Esther 7:10. What does this story tell you about God's timing? Isn't it remarkable how He allows the plans of the wicked to backfire so perfectly? Do you feel like you've been surrounded by people who've tried to undermine you at every turn? Have you questioned why God allowed it to happen in the first place? Consider this: Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, thinking they had erased his dreams forever. But what did God do? He turned their betrayal into the very catalyst for Joseph's elevation. Joseph himself said, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Genesis 50:20. Now imagine this happening in your life. What if the very traps set for you by your enemies become the tools of their own undoing? What if God uses their schemes to elevate you beyond their comprehension? Would you have the faith to trust his process, even when it doesn't make sense? When God acts, he doesn't just lift you up. He ensures your enemies experience a humbling that speaks volumes. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. James 4:6. Their pride, their influence, their false sense of control, all of it will crumble. And it won't happen in secret. It will be public, undeniable, and unforgettable. Can you picture it? The people who doubted you, who whispered behind your back, will one day witness your rise. They'll watch as God prepares a table before you in their presence. Psalm 23:5. How does that make you feel? Does it fill you with hope? Or does it challenge you to trust God's timing even more? Here's the best part. You don't have to lift a finger. You won't need to fight back, defend yourself, or seek revenge. God will do it all. Just as David declared when facing Goliath, "The battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands." 1 Samuel 17:47. And when the victory comes, it will be so complete, so undeniable, that even your enemies will have no choice but to acknowledge God's hand in your life. Remember, this isn't just about defeating your enemies. It's about showing the world what happens when God defends his chosen ones. Your story, like Joseph's, is about to become a testimony of God's power. So, chosen one, stand firm. Trust in his plan. The best is yet to come, and your vindication is on the way. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Do you believe it? Then get ready. Your moment is coming. 2. The stage was always yours. They just didn't know it. Your enemies never realized this simple truth. The stage was always yours. Every plot they schemed, every trap they laid, every word they used to discredit you, all of it was unknowingly pushing you closer to your destined moment of elevation. They thought they were breaking you, but in reality, every setback was God's way of setting the stage for your ultimate breakthrough. Have you ever stopped to wonder how the very obstacles in your life might be the tools God is using to elevate you? What they built to harm you has now become the very platform God is using to showcase his power in your life. Their attacks weren't random or meaningless acts of malice. They were part of a divine setup. In their arrogance, they believed they had power over you. But what they didn't understand is this: God was always in control. Can you see now how God's hand has been working behind the scenes, turning every attack into a stepping stone for your destiny? Just as Pharaoh's stubbornness became the backdrop for God to demonstrate his miracles in Egypt, so too will their schemes serve to highlight God's glory in your life. Think about this. Joseph's brothers thought they could erase him by selling him into slavery. They stripped him of his coat, but they couldn't strip him of his calling. Every betrayal, every false accusation, and every lonely night in prison only brought Joseph closer to the palace. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. Isn't it amazing how God can take the very tools of your enemies and turn them into instruments for your elevation? Now, look at your own life. Do you think the rejection you endured, the betrayal you faced, the silence that felt like abandonment, was it all wasted? It wasn't wasted. It was a process, a refining fire designed to prepare you for the moment when God would unveil the masterpiece he's been creating in you all along. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. Do you see it now? Every moment of pain was part of a divine plan. Here's the poetic truth. The stage your enemies tried to take from you was never theirs to begin with. Long before they even knew your name, God had already written it on the stage. For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. Romans 11:29. They couldn't stop what was predestined by God, no matter how hard they tried. And when God brings you forward, it won't be quiet or subtle. The same people who tried to push you into the shadows will be forced to witness your elevation. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Psalm 23:5. Can you imagine their disbelief as they watch you rise? This isn't about revenge, it's about revelation. It's about showing the world that God's chosen ones don't stay down. When God moves, it's not just a private victory, it's a public declaration. Just as he parted the Red Sea for the Israelites while their enemies watched in awe, he will make your breakthrough undeniable. No amount of scheming, lying or plotting can stop what God has already set in motion. The stage was always yours. They just couldn't see it. And now, they'll have no choice but to watch as you step into your rightful place. Are you ready for your moment? Because God's light is already shining on you. This is your time, chosen one. Three, their power was an illusion. God exposes the fraud. Your enemy's power was never real, it was always an illusion. They built their authority on a fragile foundation of secrecy, lies and manipulation, believing they could control outcomes and dominate you with their schemes. But here's the truth. When God steps in, he doesn't just strip away their power. He exposes it for the fraud that it is. Everyone, including them, will see how empty and temporary their so-called strength really was. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. Luke 12:2. The people who tried to tear you down relied on tactics that only work in darkness. Have you noticed how manipulation thrives when truth is hidden? These are the tools of the weak, not the strong. They operated in the shadows because they knew that if the light of truth ever touched their actions, their carefully constructed facade would come crashing down. Think about Haman in the book of Esther. He seemed powerful, didn't he? With the king's favor and the influence to pass a decree against an entire people, it looked like his plans were unstoppable, but his power was a mirage. When God moved, Haman's schemes unraveled and his authority crumbled. He was hanged on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Esther 7:10. Could the same be true in your life right now? Is God working behind the scenes to expose what has been hidden? Their arrogance blinded them to the truth. Their power was always temporary, always conditional, and never theirs to wield. When God exposes someone, he does it completely. It's not a minor embarrassment. It's a total collapse of everything they believed made them invincible. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. Imagine this: the authority they claimed, stripped away; the alliances they built, gone; the pride they carried, reduced to ashes. The spotlight they once enjoyed will now shine harshly on their failures, exposing every lie and deception for all to see. And while they crumble under the weight of their own deceit, you, chosen one, will stand tall in truth and grace. But remember, this isn't about cruelty, it's about truth. God's justice isn't petty or vindictive, it's restorative. The lies they use to build their image can't hold up under the weight of reality. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. Their schemes born in shadows cannot survive in the presence of God's light. Chosen one, the fraud is about to be exposed, and your strength, rooted in God's truth, will shine brighter than ever. God is moving, and he's about to show the world that the power your enemies claimed was never real. 4. Celebration comes with clarity. When God brings you into your moment of celebration, it's not just about the victory, it's about the wisdom and lessons gained along the way. Yes, the tables have turned, and yes, your enemies are being humbled. But something even more profound is happening. God is giving you clarity. This clarity is not a mere byproduct of your breakthrough. It's a divine gift. It's as important as the celebration itself, for there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. During your storms, it may have been difficult to discern who was truly in your corner. Have you ever noticed how some people clap for you in public, but secretly hope for your failure? Or how others might offer support while quietly planting seeds of doubt? When God moves, He doesn't just elevate you, He exposes the truth. Consider the story of Judas Iscariot. He walked alongside Jesus, shared meals with Him, and appeared outwardly loyal. Yet Judas harbored betrayal in his heart. Luke 22:47-48. Jesus, in His divine clarity, knew Judas' intentions long before they unfolded. Have you ever wondered why God allows certain people to linger in your life until the right moment? Could it be that He's waiting to reveal their true nature when it matters most? God's clarity doesn't come to harm you. It comes to protect you. As He elevates you, He also pulls back the curtain, revealing who genuinely supports you and who has been wearing a mask. This discernment is essential because your next chapter is too significant to let the wrong people linger in your circle. Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Your celebration isn't just about external success, it's about internal freedom. The betrayals you've endured have taught you what disloyalty looks like, and now God is equipping you to recognize it before it can take root again. Can you see how this clarity is part of His greater plan for your life? What would it feel like to step into your next season knowing you're surrounded only by those who truly love and support you? The peace you'll feel in this season won't just come from the victory itself. It will come from the joy of knowing your foundation is solid. God is ensuring that as He elevates you, your circle is refined. The people who remain will be those who align with His purpose for your life. The clarity that comes with your celebration is not only a blessing but a necessity. Think of Joseph once again. When he rose to power in Egypt, the same brothers who betrayed him came to him in need. By then, Joseph had clarity. He could see their remorse, their genuine need for forgiveness, and his role in God's plan. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50:20. Joseph's clarity allowed him to embrace his victory without the weight of resentment or hidden enemies. That's the power of clarity. It amplifies your joy, strengthens your foundation, and ensures that your elevation isn't hindered by lingering doubts or false connections. What if God is already refining your circle, preparing you for the heights He's taking you to? Can you trust Him to remove what no longer serves your journey? If you're ready to embrace this clarity and walk boldly into your next chapter, type "Clarity is my gift" in the comments below. Let this be your declaration of faith as you celebrate not only your victory, but the wisdom God is pouring into your life. Chosen one, your celebration is near, and with it comes the peace, joy, and clarity that only God can give. You are stepping into a season where your victory is accompanied by truth, discernment, and the confidence to move forward unburdened by hidden enemies. Are you ready? 5. They will watch in silence, knowing they can't undo what's been done. There's a unique kind of silence that follows a divine vindication, a silence not born out of choice, but out of sheer powerlessness. When God moves to elevate you, it's never just about your success. It's about making a statement so undeniable, so overwhelming, that even your enemies are left without words. They will watch in stunned silence as everything they worked so hard to prevent unfolds before their eyes. And here's the truth they can't escape. They are completely powerless to undo what God has done. This isn't just the absence of words, it's the weight of their realization. Can you imagine the moment? They'll finally understand that their plans to stop you were not only futile, but laughable in the grand scheme of God's design. All the energy they poured into trying to block your progress has led them to nothing but frustration. The Lord foils the plans of the nations. He thwarts the purposes of the peoples. But the plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations. Psalm 33, 10-11. Think about the story of Daniel in the lion's den. His enemies schemed tirelessly to bring about his downfall, using deception and manipulation to have him thrown into a pit with lions. But God shut the mouths of the lions, and Daniel emerged unharmed. What happened to those who plotted against him? They were silenced not by force, but by the undeniable display of God's power in Daniel's life. Daniel 6:22-24. Have you ever considered that your enemies might face the same silence when God's hand is revealed in your life? This silence is profound. It's the realization of their powerlessness. They'll see that their words, their actions, and their plans were never enough to thwart God's purpose for you. What makes it even more striking is that they won't dare to speak against you anymore. Not because they've suddenly changed their hearts, but because the magnitude of your victory leaves no room for debate. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Can you imagine the impact of your elevation? God's hand in your life will be so evident, so overwhelming, that even the boldest of critics will have no choice but to bite their tongues. Any attempt to discredit you would only highlight their own foolishness. Their silence will become the loudest confirmation of God's authority over your life. But this silence isn't just about you. It's about him. It's a reflection of divine power and sovereignty. It's God's way of showing the world that when he moves, no one can stand in his way. For your enemies, it's a humbling reminder that their actions, their schemes, and their pride are powerless against the one who holds your destiny. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. Here's something to reflect on. How will it feel to walk boldly into your God-ordained season, knowing your victory is so undeniable that even your enemies have no words left to speak? What would it mean for you to see the people who once doubted you stand in stunned silence, acknowledging that they were never in control? Chosen one, this is your time. The silence of your enemies will echo the magnitude of your victory and the undeniable authority of your God. Get ready to rise while they watch, unable to do anything but acknowledge the power of the one who fights for you. 6. Their loss will be personal and public. When God delivers justice, it's not subtle. It cuts deep, leaving no room for confusion or denial. This isn't just about balancing the scales. It's about making the impact personal and undeniable. For your enemies, this won't be a small stumble hidden in the shadows. It will be a public collapse of everything they held dear, right in front of the people whose opinions matter most to them. The things they built their identity on, status, reputation, influence, will no longer stand. Their once flawless image will crack and shatter, and the power they wielded so confidently will slip through their fingers like sand. And you? How does it feel knowing that God sees every injustice, even the ones done in secret, and that he has a plan to set things right? Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. The humiliation they experience won't come from some random event. It will come from the very things they once prided themselves on. The foundation they thought was unshakable will crumble right before their peers, their supporters, and even their allies. This isn't about God being cruel, it's about accountability. Do you remember Pharaoh's story? He refused to let the Israelites go, thinking he was untouchable. But God's justice exposed his arrogance and brought down the very foundation of his power. The plagues, the loss of his firstborn, and the parting of the Red Sea were not just acts of deliverance for Israel. They were public demonstrations of divine authority that humbled Pharaoh and his nation. Exodus 14:26-31. What if the same kind of divine justice is being prepared for those who have opposed you? Could their pride be the very tool God uses to expose their downfall? God ensures that their loss is both personal, hitting them where it hurts the most, and public, so they can't hide behind facades or excuses. Their status, which they used to harm, deceive, and oppress, will be stripped away. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. Isaiah 30:18. This isn't a random fall, it's a divine act of setting things right. Here's the remarkable part. When the dust settles, respect begins to shift. Not for them, but for you. Even those who once stood against you will have no choice but to acknowledge the power of God in your life. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers but later elevated by God. When his brothers came to him in Egypt, they bowed before him, not just in submission, but in awe of what God had done in his life. Genesis 45:4-8. Your enemies may not like what they see, but they will respect it. Why? Because the evidence of God's favor on your life will be undeniable. How powerful is it to think that even those who doubted or despised you will have to admit that God was always on your side? Their loss won't just restore balance. It will redefine the entire narrative. The lies they told, the schemes they orchestrated, and the harm they intended will all serve as a backdrop for your rise. But here's the question for you. Can you trust that God's timing is perfect even when justice seems delayed? Are you ready to embrace his plan, knowing it's leading to something greater? And here's where the beauty of God's justice shines brightest. It's not just about your vindication, it's about his glory. Your enemies won't simply lose, they'll be forced to witness your elevation while grappling with the truth that their fall wasn't random. It was the result of divine hands at work, ensuring that everything they meant for harm was turned into good for you. What would it feel like to see God not only restore you, but also redefine the story in your favor, making even your enemies acknowledge his work in your life? How will you carry yourself in that moment, knowing God has turned the tables for you? This is the power of divine justice. It doesn't just make things right, it transforms the narrative entirely. Chosen one, God is moving on your behalf, and the results will be both personal and public. 7. Your humiliation was temporary, theirs will be permanent. Humiliation is a bitter pill, and you've tasted its sting during your trials. You faced setbacks that left you doubting your path, endured whispers that sought to tear you down, and felt the pain of being underestimated. Yet, your humiliation was never meant to last. It was temporary, a refining fire that strengthened you, taught you resilience, and positioned you for the breakthrough that's coming. After you've suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. 1 Peter 5:10. Your trials were never the end of your story. They were chapters of preparation, not of defeat. Can you see now how the season of humiliation shaped you into someone unshakable? But here's the difference. While your humiliation was temporary and redemptive, your enemy's humiliation will be permanent. When God steps in to deliver justice, their downfall won't be a fleeting moment of shame. It will be a permanent chapter etched into their story, a constant reminder of the consequences of their actions. Remember Haman, who sought to destroy Mordecai and the Jewish people. His plot didn't just fail, it became the very means of his own humiliation. He was hanged on the gallows he built for Mordecai, and his legacy was forever marked by his arrogance and deceit. Esther 7:10. God didn't just vindicate Mordecai, he used Haman's downfall as a warning for others. What if God is preparing the same reckoning for those who sought to harm you? While your trials served to elevate you, their actions were building a legacy of deceit, arrogance, and harm. And when that crumbles, it won't fade away. The reputation they once clung to will bear the marks of their misdeeds. The platforms they used to rise will refuse to support them any longer. What once made them seem untouchable will now become the very evidence of their downfall. This isn't about vengeance, it's about divine justice. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay," says the Lord. Romans 12:19. God does not allow the wrongs committed against his chosen ones to go unchecked. Your temporary humiliation prepared you for greater things, but theirs will serve as a warning, not just to them, but to everyone watching, that no one touches what God has blessed. Their lasting humiliation will carry a weight they can't escape, not just because of the damage to their image, but because they'll know deep down that they brought it upon themselves. It will follow them, a shadow that lingers, even as they try to rebuild. Can you imagine the moment when they realize that their pride and schemes weren't just unsuccessful, but the very reason for their undoing? And as they grapple with the permanence of their downfall, your rise will stand as the ultimate testimony of God's restoration and redemption. Your story, once marked by whispers and underestimation, will shine as evidence that God lifts his chosen ones above every storm. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He seats them with the princes of his people. Psalm 113, 7-8. This is the beauty of God's justice. It not only restores, it redefines. Your trials, though painful, have prepared you for triumph, while their arrogance, though seemingly powerful, has paved the way for their reckoning. So, how does it feel to know that God has used your temporary trials to shape your everlasting victory? How will you carry yourself, knowing that your rise isn't just about you, but a testimony to God's power and faithfulness? Chosen one, your temporary humiliation has set the stage for eternal elevation, and their permanent downfall will serve as a lasting reminder of what happens when someone dares to come against what God has ordained. 8. Celebration is not just external, it's internal. True celebration isn't about the applause or the accolades, it's about the profound, unshakable peace that comes from knowing you've overcome. It's the quiet, soul-deep realization that every struggle you endured, every battle you fought, has brought you closer to walking fully in your purpose. Have you felt that moment of stillness where the weight of your battles gives way to the calm assurance that God was with you all along? This is the kind of peace that no material success or external validation can ever match. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:7. When God vindicates you, the external victories are undeniable. Opportunities flourish, doors open, and your influence grows. But the real triumph isn't found in these outward blessings. It's found within. It's the internal satisfaction of knowing that no weapon formed against you succeeded, that every scheme meant to derail your path was powerless against God's plan. Can you imagine how much stronger you've become because those battles didn't break you, but refined you? Have you ever noticed how true peace isn't tied to what's happening around you, but what's happening within you? This peace doesn't come from proving your enemies wrong. It comes from witnessing firsthand that divine favor is stronger than any opposition. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. What makes this internal celebration so profound is its independence from circumstances or the opinions of others. It's rooted in the assurance that you are exactly where you're meant to be, guided, protected, and sustained by the Creator. The things your enemies did, the storms you faced, and the pain you endured no longer define you. Instead, they become markers of God's faithfulness in your life. How powerful is it to think that the very struggles meant to break you have instead refined you into someone unshakable? Think of Joseph once again. After years of betrayal, false accusations, and imprisonment, he rose to power, second only to Pharaoh. While his external success was evident to all, the deeper victory was internal. The peace and clarity of knowing he was walking in the purpose God had for him. When he forgave his brothers, he said, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Genesis 50:20. That's the kind of peace that defines true celebration, knowing that everything you went through was part of a greater plan. Walking in purpose brings a satisfaction that far outweighs any harm your enemies tried to do. The applause fades, and material success is fleeting, but the peace that comes from God remains. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. It anchors you, giving you the confidence to move forward boldly, knowing you've been tested, refined, and chosen. So, what would it feel like to release the weight of your past struggles and replace it with the quiet assurance that you're exactly where you're meant to be? Can you imagine the freedom of knowing that nothing your enemies did could derail what God has ordained for you? That's the real celebration, not just the outward triumph, but the inner strength and clarity that come from knowing no weapon formed against you could prosper. You are not defined by the storms you faced, but by the resilience and purpose they revealed in you. Chosen one, this is your time to walk boldly in your purpose, not because of the applause or the external rewards, but because of the peace that now resides within you. That's where true victory lies, in the quiet strength of knowing that God's plan for your life is unstoppable. 9. Your victory will inspire others to rise above hatred. Your victory is more than a personal achievement. It's a beacon of light for those still fighting through the shadows of hatred and opposition. As you rise, your story becomes undeniable proof of this truth. God defends His own. Your elevation isn't just about fulfilling your purpose. It's about inspiring countless others to see that if God can do it for you, He can do it for them too. Think of the countless people who feel trapped, silenced, overlooked, or attacked by forces beyond their control. They've been betrayed by friends, torn down by gossip, and left in the shadows while others prospered at their expense. But when they see your breakthrough, something shifts. They realize that their story doesn't end with their pain. Have you ever thought about how your journey might spark someone else's hope? Your victory is more than a celebration of success. It's a flame that ignites courage in others. It urges them to rise above the hate, betrayal, and despair, just as you did. This isn't a fleeting miracle. It's evidence of God's enduring power to bring His people through their darkest seasons and elevate them to places of honor. Let your light so shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew 5:16. Could your testimony become the light that guides others out of their darkness? Even your enemy's humiliation serves a greater purpose. Their failed attempts to harm you become a reminder to everyone, including themselves, that they were never in control. God turns their defeat into the fuel that propels others forward. Think of Joseph, who endured betrayal and slavery only to rise to a position of power. When his brothers came seeking help, Joseph declared, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Genesis 50:20. Like Joseph, your victory becomes a living reminder that no one can stop what God has ordained. The power of your testimony isn't about personal revenge, it's about transformation. Your rise becomes a rallying cry for others to refuse to let hatred define them. When people see your journey, they'll understand that the chains meant to bind them can be broken. Think of Paul and Silas, who sang praises to God in prison. Their faith didn't just open their own cell doors, it set everyone around them free. Acts 16:25-26. Could your breakthrough bring the same kind of freedom to others who are watching? Your story will resonate with those who feel defeated, encouraging them to trust in God's timing and sovereignty. But thanks be to God, who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. 1 Corinthians 15:57. Your life becomes a testament that opposition and betrayal don't have the final say. Chosen one, your victory is not just your own. It's a divine invitation for others to rise above their pain and step into the fullness of their purpose. Like Joseph, David, and Paul, your journey will remind others that God is faithful to those who trust Him. Your testimony will inspire faith, hope, and courage, proving that God's power is unstoppable. 10. The very systems they used against you will turn on them. When your enemies believed they had the upper hand, using gossip, alliances, and authority to undermine you, they failed to recognize a profound truth. God has the final say. The very systems they relied on to bring you down will ultimately turn against them. God has a unique way of flipping the script, and when He steps in, the tools of destruction they designed for you become the very instruments of their undoing. Consider Haman in the book of Esther. He built gallows with the intention of executing Mordecai, but in a divine twist, Haman himself was hanged on the very structure he had prepared for his enemy. Esther 7:10. How often do we see God turning the plans of the wicked back on them? Could the traps your enemies have set for you become the same mechanisms of their downfall? Gossip, lies, and manipulation often thrive in darkness, where shadows conceal the perpetrator's intentions. But God doesn't let injustice hide forever, for there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. Have you ever wondered how it will feel to watch as God brings to light the very things they thought would remain hidden? The schemes they wove so carefully will unravel, exposing the truth of their actions. What if the very weapons formed against you become the evidence of God's intervention on your behalf? Their lies will collapse, their alliances will fracture, and the authority they once wielded will betray them. Just as Pharaoh pursued the Israelites with his mighty army, only to be swallowed by the very Red Sea they crossed in triumph, Exodus 14:27-28, so too will the forces used against you backfire on your enemies. The consequences your enemies face won't just be a simple reversal, they'll be amplified. The strategies they used against you will boomerang back with devastating accuracy. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6:7. The seeds of malice they planted will return to them, magnified as a divine reminder of the justice they cannot escape. What's even more striking is how their power, the very thing they relied on to manipulate and control, becomes their greatest weakness. Think of Nebuchadnezzar, the powerful king who exalted himself above God. His arrogance led to his downfall, as God humbled him by stripping away his power and forcing him to live like an animal until he acknowledged God's sovereignty. Daniel 4:33-34. Could the systems your enemies trusted to protect themselves crumble under the weight of their own pride and deceit? When God turns the tide, the traps they set for you will become the mechanisms of their dismantling. The systems they once trusted will betray them, leaving them exposed and vulnerable. The wicked are snared by the work of their hands. Psalm 9-16. There's no escape from divine justice, and as their plans unravel, you will stand as a testament to God's faithfulness. The very schemes meant to destroy you will only serve to magnify His power in your life. What would it feel like to walk in the assurance that no weapon formed against you will prosper? Chosen one, their downfall is not about revenge, it's about accountability. God ensures that no injustice goes unanswered. The systems they used to harm you will become their undoing, exposing the truth and vindicating you for all to see. 11. The celebration will expose jealous friends. 2. Have you ever noticed how success can reveal the true intentions of those around you? When your moment of elevation arrives, don't be surprised if some people you once considered friends begin to show their true colors. Celebrations have a way of peeling back the layers, exposing hidden envy that may have been simmering beneath the surface all along. Those who once cheered you on might grow silent, or worse, subtly critical, as jealousy rises to the forefront. This isn't a setback. It's part of God's divine process. His elevation of you isn't just about external success. It's about refining your inner circle. Could your celebration be God's way of separating those who are meant to stay from those who were only passing through? Think about Gideon in Judges 7. God told him to reduce his army, not because he needed fewer soldiers, but because he wanted the right people, those who were committed, courageous, and aligned with his purpose. In the same way, God may be using your victory to reveal who truly belongs in your life. As you rise, certain relationships will be tested. Do you trust that God will reveal the difference between genuine supporters and those with hidden motives? The people who truly celebrate you will do so without hesitation, rejoicing in your victories as if they were their own. But those who were only in your life for personal gain or to feed off your energy will begin to show resentment. They won't be able to hide it anymore. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. Psalm 28:7. Their true intentions will be exposed, and you'll see clearly who is meant to stay and who was just pretending to be a friend. What if God is using this season to protect you from harm that you can't yet see? Think of Judas, one of Jesus' disciples. Outwardly loyal, Judas walked alongside Jesus, but harbored betrayal in his heart. Luke 22:47-48. Even Jesus had to endure the pain of a close companion turning against him. This process, while uncomfortable, is a safeguard for your destiny. The beauty of this refining process is that God is working on your behalf. He's removing toxic relationships, clearing the path for you to walk into your next chapter without unnecessary weight dragging you down. How freeing would it be to move forward, knowing that only those who truly celebrate you are walking beside you? Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? Amos 3:3. This is the time when God is pruning your relationship so that you can grow stronger and higher than ever before. So when the celebration begins and certain friends pull away or reveal their envy, don't see it as rejection. What if this is God making space for you to elevate even higher? Like a gardener pruning a tree for healthy growth, God is removing what no longer serves his purpose in your life. Trust that he's aligning you with people who are genuinely for you, preparing you for a future free from the weight of pretense and toxicity. 12. Their plans backfired because they messed with a chosen one. The greatest humiliation your enemies face isn't just in their failed attempts to harm you. It's in the shocking realization that they underestimated the power behind you. They thought they were fighting against you alone, not realizing that their real battle was with God. You're not just anyone, you're chosen, and that changes everything. Have you ever stopped to think about what it means to be truly untouchable because of divine favor? When they targeted you, they failed to grasp the magnitude of the divine covering over your life. Now they are forced to watch as their schemes unravel before their eyes. Every weapon they formed, every word they spread, every trap they laid, it all collapses, not because of your strength, but because of the one who stands with you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Isaiah 54:17. Your enemies might have thought they could outsmart you, manipulate circumstances, or use their influence to tear you down. But what they didn't understand was that their efforts were doomed the moment they decided to mess with someone chosen by God. Think of Pharaoh, who believed he could defy God's will and keep the Israelites enslaved. Every move he made against them only set the stage for a greater display of God's power. When Pharaoh and his army pursued the Israelites into the Red Sea, the waters that parted for God's people became the trap that destroyed their enemies. Exodus 14:26-31. Do you see how God's hand turns every attack into an opportunity to show His sovereignty? God's chosen ones are never at the mercy of their enemies. No matter how fierce the attacks or how deep the plots, they all crumble in the face of divine favor. Your enemy's biggest mistake wasn't their schemes. It was daring to come against someone protected by God. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Have you noticed how their efforts to harm you often end up paving the way for your next victory? Look at Haman in the book of Esther. He meticulously planned Mordecai's downfall, building gallows for him in anticipation of his execution. But in a stunning reversal, Haman himself was hanged on the very structure he built. Esther 7:10. Their actions may have seemed clever, calculated, even inevitable, but God had other plans. Could the schemes of those who sought to harm you be setting the stage for their own downfall, just as Haman's were? Your rise is a testament to the unstoppable nature of God's purpose. Every attack against you, every betrayal, and every attempt to hinder you only served to propel you closer to your destiny. What they meant for harm, God used for good. Just like Joseph, whose brothers sold him into slavery, you can now look at their failed attempts and say, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done." Genesis 50:20. The plans of your enemies didn't just fail, they backfired spectacularly. Every move they made has only highlighted the favor of God in your life. Their humiliation is not just about their failure, it's about their realization that they were never in control. How does it feel to know that every obstacle they placed in your path became a stepping stone for your elevation? Your success isn't just a result of your resilience, it's proof of divine favor. The battles you've won, the heights you've reached, and the protection you've experienced all point to one truth. Your destiny is sealed by a power far greater than any force that could come against you. Chosen one, your life is living proof that no one can contend with God's plan. Their downfall isn't about revenge. It's about divine justice. It's about God showing the world that His chosen ones are protected, empowered, and unstoppable. Let their humiliation serve as a reminder to you and everyone watching that no matter how fierce the opposition, God's plans cannot be thwarted. What God has prepared for you is unstoppable. The celebration that awaits you isn't just a reflection of your success, it's a clear and undeniable declaration of divine favor in motion. This is about more than outward victories. It's about stepping confidently into your purpose, knowing that your enemies' humiliation is not your doing. It's the inevitable result of their misguided actions coming face to face with God's sovereign plan. The very tools they used to try to tear you down have now become the instruments of their own undoing. Their downfall serves as the backdrop to your elevation, highlighting the glory of God's faithfulness in your life. As you step into the fullness of your victory, don't just celebrate the external triumphs, relish the internal peace, clarity, and strength that come from knowing you've been divinely protected and chosen. Have you ever thought about how your journey of victory could inspire someone else to believe in God's plan for their life? Your rise isn't just for you. It's a beacon of hope for others, a living testimony that no matter how fierce the battle, God always has the final word. Let this be a reminder to celebrate every step, every moment of breakthrough, because this is only the beginning. What God has in store for you next is beyond anything you've imagined. Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Ephesians 3:20. To everyone who has been part of this journey, thank you for your time, your presence, and your faith. You are not just listening to a message. You are stepping into a community of believers who understand the power of divine favor and unshakable purpose. What steps will you take today to embrace this victory and walk boldly into the purpose God has for you? As you continue to shine, know that your light is unstoppable because it's fueled by God's hand on your life. We're here to walk with you through every elevation, every breakthrough, and every season of growth. May God bless you abundantly and grant you the courage to keep moving forward in your calling. Remember, the best is yet to come. Celebrate your victories, embrace your purpose, and trust in the one who has already secured your destiny. Keep shining because no enemy can stop what God has already started in you. God bless you and your journey ahead.